Hello, FreeCad users. My name is Francois, and I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to how to use the sheet metal workbench a little bit, and how to create dies in order to create impression in metal, in sheet metal. So let's get started. I'm going to be using the weekly build of FreeCAD 0.22. So it will work with most FreeCAD since 0.2, 0.21. So anyway, let's go. So we're going to create a new file. And on this new file, I'd already selected the sheet metal workbench here, as you can see. And we're going to use the add base shape. The add base shape, as you can see, now it's creating a L font. On the dialog here, to the left, we do have a toolbox, and here we can select on the shape type, the different shape, the tube, hat, the box, but we can also select flat. So I'm going to create a flat sheet of 50 millimeters by 50 millimeters and 1 millimeters thick. The rest is about the same, so we're going to click OK. All right, so we have a body now with our sheet metal in there. So I'm going to create from there I'm going to go back to part design, and I'm going to create a new body. I'm going to move the sheet, I'm going to hide the sheet metal we created. So on this new body, I'm going to create a new sketch. And from that new sketch, I'm going to use the XZ plane. So it's going to be perpendicular to the sheet metal. You can see if I put it back together, you see the sheet metal appears as a flat object here. So I'm back to my sketch here, and I'm just going to help myself with some grid. And I'm going to make a rectangle of 16 millimeters wide by 2 millimeters deep. I'm not going to go too much and fully constrain this object, but it's not really needed for the exercise here. So I'm going to close that. So that sketch, I'm going to go and pad it. And we had 16 millimeters. I'm going to add another 16 millimeters for the padding. So now I've got a nice little square box. And we do have our sheet metal on there too. So if I see right now, they're both located at the center. So I'm going to take that pad here, and I'm just going to move it out of the way. So I'm going to transform it, and I'm going to move it up. I'm going to hide the sheet metal again. That's going to help me select the underside of it. So if I were to make that impression on the sheet metal, it will be a little bit too rough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth out the bottom part of that impression. So I'm going to select the pad. I'm going to select that, sorry, I'm going to go to part. And from there, as being that part being selected, sorry, the task is done. I'm going to select the bottom face. And from that bottom face, I'm just simply going to do a little fillet. So the fillet, I'm going to select the faces here. And sorry, I needed to select it now. As you can see, the thing is selected on the side. So we hit the select face, and I'm going to select the whole bottom face. And you'll see automatically it'll select the edges that's going to be used for creating the fillet. So from there, I'm going to select a radius. So a radius of 1 will create a small fillet. It is small, but it's 1 millimeters. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I double click on this, and here I can make a fillet all the way to 1.95, let's say, millimeters. And as you can see, the fillet is a little bit smoother there. So you can see as we press that object into the sheet metal, it will be a little bit more smooth and less right angles. All right, so I'm going to call that pressed embossed. So from there, I'm going to select the body where I have my sheet metal. So I'm going to double click on this and I'm going to make it visual. So I'm going to take that object again. Sorry. I'm going to get the fillet object, and I'm going to transform it and move it up just a little bit. There you go. So I've got my sheet metal here, and I've got the object that I want to emboss into that sheet metal. So I'm going to take suddenly it has become fillet. So I'm going to select the fillet, and I'm going to select that one. So we're going to go to sheet metal, workbench, and what we want trying to use is the almost the last icon here. So in order to do that, I'm going to click OK on the task. In order to use that this one here, sorry, the make forming in wall, what we need to do is to select the top of the sheet metal. And using the control key, we're going to select the top of the pressed object. Once we select those two, we see that the icon is enabled, which is make forming in wall. So we're going to click on this, and suddenly we have our object that's pressed into the sheet metal. So the tool is going to try to make sure that we have the exact same thickness as we come down. And as you can see, it's nice and smooth as it's coming down. The outside shape here is just helping driving it down. But it's pretty much flat, and we have a smooth coming back. So now I've got my sheet metal here with the embossed pattern. So how do I press that down? So that's the final product that I want to put on my product. How do I actually create that? So what people do is they stamp it. And how do they stamp? They stamp using dies. So how do I make a die in FreeCAD to actually press this shape into that sheet metal? Well, it's actually pretty easy. What I'm going to do is first I'm going to rename that press metal. So I'm going to create another object. So I'm going to go back to part design, and I'm going to create a new body. From this new body, I'm going to create um, a new sketch. In that new sketch, I'm going to take the it's the XY plane. So what I'm going to do is I want to actually create the dies. So I'm going to make a rectangle that's within the press sheet metal that I've got here, right there. I'm not seeing it right now because it's being hidden by the press metal object. I'm going to close all those. That's my die here. If I put the press metal sheet here, you see that it's actually hidden, but it's right there. So I'm going to close that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pad it. And I'm going to pad it. So the sheet metal was 1 millimeter plus another 2 millimeters for the pressed object. But I want some pretty strong die. So I'm going to put a 25 millimeter. And I'm going to put it symmetrical to the plane. So it's going to put 12.5 millimeter above the Z plane and 12.5 below the Z plane. So, and I click OK on that. So now if I get my sheet metal, as you can see, I've got a box that's not all the way out to the edge of the sheet metal. but that encompasses everything inside. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to keep that box, so I'm going to use this, and I'm going to select with the control key the press metal. I'm going to go to my part workbench, and just going to do a cut. And now what happened is that we kept everything that's not touching, that's not inside that sheet metal. So the great thing about this is that if you select, if you put it on wireless, if you put the appearance as being wireframe, as you can see here, we do have the object that actually created the two dies. Pretty fun. So now how do I separate those objects? Well, it's very simple. When you go to the part, so you select the cut, so the new object called cut, and you go to part, you got a menu that says compound and explode compound. So we're going to click on that, and now we have a new folder here. The two parts are still here, but we have a new folder. And the new folder has cut 1 and cut 0. So basically, when it did the Boolean operation, it actually divided the big cube that we had into two different cubes that are not touching each other. So we have the cube on top here, that's called cut 1. So we can call that the top die. And you have the cube on bottom, the bottom die. So if I take the top die and I change the appearance, I take the top die and change its appearance. No, I cannot change the appearance. All right. Actually, it's right here, so it's already open. So if I select the top one and I said I want a wireframe, you can see on how the top one is being put together. If I select the bottom one, go to the appearance and select, so I'm going to take flat line. If I select the bottom one, I say wireframe, then I've got my bottom one. And so we do have the space for the sheet metal to be deformed between the two. All right. So this is how you get the two put together. All right. Now, what you can do is to actually separate those objects into two different bodies and then make modification as you want. But basically, you got your two dies. You can put some pins, you can put some holes, some alignment pins. You can pretty much finish your object the way you want. All right, hope that helped a couple of people, and I hope you guys have a great day.